Welcome to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services module, the Chapter 3, Submission and Correction of HIS Records. This module will introduce learners to the process of submitting HIS records and identifying those that need correction. This is the last of 8 modules in the larger series, HIS Coding Guidance. The series overall is intended for users who are familiar with HIS coding and submission guidelines. For newer users, we recommend starting with the HIS manual and older trainings first. These modules will not cover all items in all sections. Learners may choose to listen to the entire series or may choose to listen to 1 or 2 modules that are of most interest to them, meaning the modules in this series can be watched independently or as a group. Included here on Slide 2 is a list of acronyms that will be used in this presentation, listed in alphabetical order. After completion, learners will be able to identify corrections necessary to ensure the accuracy of the HIS record and identify reasons for modifications and inactivations and the process for correcting data. Prior modules in this series have focused exclusively on collecting the necessary HIS data and completing HIS records. But what comes after data collection and record completion? After data collection and record completion, you must submit HIS data to CMS's QIES ASAP system. Each provider must create electronic HIS records and submit them via approved software that meets certain specifications. There are several technical links at the end of this module that will help providers to register for a QIES user ID and get started with their HIS submissions. Providers can register for 2 QIES user IDs. As part of the first module in the HIS coding guidance, we reviewed recommended HIS completion timing. Now let's look at submission timing. Submission deadlines for all records are the target date, which is the patient's admission or discharge date, plus 30 days. For HIS admission records, you should submit no later than 30 days from the admission date. For HIS discharge records, no later than 30 days from the discharge date. Attempting to submit records early will help ensure compliance, since early submission allows a buffer for correcting any fatal errors and resubmitting records as needed. The closer you are to the submission deadline, the less time you will have to make a timely correction if needed. Hospice providers should review all final validation reports in CASPR to confirm successful submission and processing of HIS data. Hospices should correct any errors necessary to ensure that the information in the QIES ASAP system accurately reflects the patient's hospice record. An HIS record may be corrected even if subsequent records have been accepted for the patient. Inaccurate information in the QIES ASAP system may affect hospice quality reporting results. A modification is used when the HIS record has been accepted into the QIES ASAP system but contains clinical or non-key demographic errors, so an error in any HIS item except record event identifiers and patient identifiers. Record event identifiers include admission date, discharge date, and reason for record. Patient identifiers include first and last name, social security number, and gender. It is important to note that when submitting the modification request, you would not change Z0500B unless the date in the original was incorrect and the modification request is to correct the date in Z0500B. The modification is a one-step process. You submit the modification record, A0500 equals 2. The modification record should contain the correct value for all items. The QIES ASAP system will then take the modification record, ensure it passes all checks, and replace the prior erroneous record with the corrected modification record. An inactivation is used when a record has been accepted into the QIES ASAP system, but the corresponding event did not occur. For example, an HIS discharge record was submitted for a patient, but there was no actual discharge. An inactivation is always used when one or more of the event identifiers or patient identifiers is found to be in error. Record event identifiers include admission date, discharge date, and reason for record. Patient identifiers include first and last name, Social Security number, gender, and birth date. An inactivation is a two-step process. For inactivations, you first submit an inactivation record, A0050 equals 3. The values on the inactivation record must match the original erroneous record. For example, if A0600A Social Security number was left blank on the original record, it should be left blank on the inactivation record. When you submit the inactivation record, if all checks are passed, the erroneous record is removed from the QIES ASAP database. With the erroneous record removed via the inactivation request, the second step in the process is to submit a new HIS record, A0050 equals 1, with the correct data. This concludes our module on HIS data submission. While the series overall is intended for users who are familiar with HIS coding and submission guidelines, information regarding the Hospice Quality Reporting Program can be found by clicking the hyperlink on this resource slide. This resource slide also contains hyperlinks to specifics on the HIS hospice quality measures, the QM User's Manual, and the HIS Manual V2 with the change table. This slide contains links to technical resources. The Hospice Quality Help Desk is available to assist with general questions about the Hospice Quality Reporting Program. This concludes the module Chapter 3, Submission and Correction of HIS Records. This module presented information on the process for correcting and inactivating HIS records, as well as guidance on ensuring accuracy of HIS data prior to submission to QIES ASAP. This is the last of 8 modules in the series Hospice Item Set Coding. The other modules in this training series are listed here, and we encourage you to view these training modules as well to understand more about HIS coding and learn how it may help you in your hospice. Thank you for viewing this presentation. The information presented was correct as of the date it was recorded. This presentation is not a legal document. Official Medicare program legal guidance is contained in the relevant statutes, regulations, and rulings.